What is something you have experienced that you literally can't explain?
Was working at a hospital as a waiter. One room was off limits. A nurse said a guy was dead in there. Some rooms were single and others were double, so I thought, well, the other guy might need food. So I went in. It was a single. There was a guy, and I had never really seen a dead person. I didn't know what to do, so I set the tray down anyway. This guy rises up in bed and looks at me. I had almost shit myself. Was I dead? I don't know. I'll get a nurse. I walked the hell out of the room. Found a nurse who yelled at me for going in there. I interrupted her with, "Oh, that guy is alive and talking to me." She didn't believe me, and then a bunch of alarms started going off in his room. I saw like 5 nurses rush into his fucking room. I had a job to do, so I planned on following up with what happened. He died again. Probably one of the more fucked up things to happen in my lifetime that I can't explain. I was 9 years old and living in Kansas. One rainy afternoon, I was lying on the top bunk of a bunk bed when I drifted off to sleep. I dreamed of watching a butterfly. I was much older in the dream, but being a child I couldn't quite place my age or the setting. Many years later, at age 17, I was living in North Carolina. I was sitting in the backyard on a lawn chair while reading a paperback. I looked up and saw this beautiful butterfly sitting on a bush. I had this weird sense it was looking at me. I stared for a long time and it flew away. That night I had a dream about me watching that same butterfly as 8-year-old in Kansas, lying on a bunk bed. I woke abruptly. My hair was standing on end. My heart was pounding. I've never been able to figure out what all this means, if it means anything. The butterfly mafia is out to get you. You need to change your identity and leave your country. The butterflies never forget. So I've had quite a few incredibly creepy experiences that I couldn't initially explain. But I like to think I'm an incredibly skeptical person when it comes to the supernatural, and for the most part, I've been able to find satisfactory explanations. That being said, there was this one time that will stick with me always. When I was a junior in college, my best friend and I lived in an apartment building that could best be described as a crack house. It was cheap and pretty much falling apart, with exclusively studio apartments, but it was also kind of cozy with little kitchenettes and nooks in each apartment. I kept some Poland Spring bottled water on a counter in my kitchenette because the tap water was gross, which will come into play soon. One day, I was sitting on the edge of my bed and my friend was sat facing me in a swivel chair, and we were just hanging out, smoking weed, next to the window and gossiping about our classes and lives. We were just calmly talking when all of a sudden, one of the bottles of water on the counter flew across the room and slammed into the wall, landing on the floor a good distance from where it hit, from hitting the wall as hard as it did. There was no one else in the room, no wind coming in, at least not with enough force to yeet a water bottle across the room, and we both jumped at the same time in shock, so it wasn't some sort of hallucination that the other clung onto. It was just this weird instance where a bottle violently threw itself against a wall, without any cause or reason. To this day, I cannot figure out what happened with that bottle. My jewel was missing. For months. Little buggers are sneaky devils, and also magnetic, so losing them is part of the game. I hoped it would just turn up and it didn't. Whatever. It especially sucked because I couldn't just go out and buy one because good old Governor Baker banned the sale of them en masse. I just sucked it up and eventually ended up borrowing a friend's when I got feisty. Last week my boyfriend and I were away on vacation, and I took my lone jewel with me because I'm an addict. And everything was great. When we got home from our trip on Thursday evening, we walked into the dining room and went to plop all our shit on the table as we always do when we arrive, and sitting right in the middle of the table is my missing jewel. I know it's my missing jewel because it has a piece of Hello Kitty duct tape across the bottom of it. My BF and I live alone, and no one was in the apartment. We brought our cat and even our houseplants to his parents before we left. The mail was just put through the slot and we can control the heat and lights from an app, so it made it look like someone was there, hence no need for anyone to check up on things. But alas, there in the middle of the table, was my jewel that I had ran through every nook and cranny of the entire apartment looking for. There is no way we could have missed it. That table is the first thing anyone sees when they walk in our place. It makes zero sense. My great-grandma was, TBH, an evil bitch. Totally screwed over my grandpa, so we didn't have any communication with her for 2 years, or my great-uncle, because of what they did. Well, one day I was standing at the end of my driveway when a golden van drove by really slow, not like the van itself was going slow, but everything went in slow motion for a short moment, and it was on the right side of the road. I couldn't see anyone in the driver's seat, but I saw an older woman in the passenger seat leaning forward and smiling really big at me, waving. She had golden blonde hair, teased really big, and red lipstick on with huge golden rimmed glasses. I swear on everything, that was my great-grandmother, which was weird because we lived a good hour away from where she was and she never came our way as we disconnected. I didn't say anything to anyone because I thought it would upset my grandpa. Fast forward a few hours later, Grandpa is calling all of us grandkids in his room one by one and no one said anything when they came out, just sent the next kid in. When it was my turn, I sat next to my grandpa and he was choked up and had tears in his eyes. He explained to me that his mother, my great-grandmother, had passed away in early April. It was now mid-May, and his brother's girlfriend called to tell us because my great-uncle had forgotten to call Grandpa. Missed the funeral and everything. I didn't tell my grandpa until a few months ago that I had seen her hours before he told me she died a month earlier. This was about 9 years ago. I've also been able to describe relatives in my grandpa's house that had died in the house before I was born. I've never even seen pictures of them. I don't like to claim that I have some connection with the dead, but sometimes I just be seeing shit and it happens to be dead relatives, lol. Alright, so, there I was, 8-year-old me cooking a cup of ramen noodles. I poured the water into the cup and put the cup of noodles into the microwave and punched in the 3-minute required cooking time. Right when the microwave started running, I shit you not, the trash bin started rotating on its own. I wasn't hallucinating or anything since it was broad daylight. It sounds like I'm bullshitting, but you have to have been there to really see for yourself. I don't know how it happened, but the trash bin just started spinning by itself as if someone or something was turning it. Needless to say, I noped the fuck out of the kitchen and ran to my older stepsister. I probably wasn't that freaked out though, since after a couple minutes, I went back to the kitchen as if nothing happened. When I was 15, me and a friend were at a soccer tournament and we were just chilling, kicking the ball around before our match. When out of nowhere the world just turned pitch black for like half a second. Me and my friend looked at each other and he said to me, "WTF just happened? You saw that too?" I looked around and no one else reacted or seemed to even notice what occurred. For sure the strangest thing to ever happen to me. That happened to my wife and I about 1.5 years ago. We were sitting in the living room on a sunny day with all of the curtains open when everything just blinked out of existence and went black for a split second. I jumped and shouted, "What the foo?" And my wife said, "Oh my god. You just saw that too?" We just wrote it off as a glitch in the simulation, but it shook us at the time. In my sophomore year of high school, some friends and I visited an abandoned insane asylum that we heard lots of ghost stories about from upperclassmen. Super creepy, but nothing crazy happened. We went home and told my friend's mom about it and she demanded we take her there. We all jump in the car and when we arrive there's a group of about 5 other people. They tell us about these underground tunnels that were once used by the workers and ask if we want to see them. We obviously say yes, and they bring us to the back of one of the buildings where we have to crawl one by one through a hole that leads into a room of the building. When I crawl through and stand up, there's nobody there. My friends and friend's mom crawl through after me and we are all there alone. We called out to the people and spent about 10 minutes looking around for them. Figured it was a prank and they were going to jump out and scare us, but nope, nothing. We were so creeped out we left after that. My best friend and I are 19, living together in one of our first apartments. Someone keeps turning the hall thermostat to exactly 70 degrees on the old spin dial. It's winter, we're Wisconsinites and broke cheapskates, so keep it at 65 and just layer up and deal with it. We each think the other is doing it. After a few mini arguments, we decide we're bumping into it in the narrow hallway and need to be more mindful of it. 70 degrees exactly keeps happening anyway. Mild tension ensues. We're going away together to visit friends out of town and will be gone for several days. We deliberately turn the heat way down to 60 or less, can't remember exactly, but down. I watch her do it. I'm taking my last bags out to the car and look at it one last time to confirm. We come back over a weekend later to see it at 70, on the dot. Ghosts like to be cozy, I guess. Not me but my grandpa. He told me how him and his friend were sitting at the table having a conversation when the glass of water slowly moved about a foot across the table. He goes, "Did you see that?" and his friend goes, "I saw that the glass just moved itself across the table. Table wasn't wet nor the glass no wind no wonkiness, just moved." They didn't know what the hell it was till they found out my mom had been playing with this little poltergeist. It used to turn on the washing machine and hide stuff, throw things and make a lot of noise, so my grandpa told it off and it went away. I just know I would have shit myself if I saw that glass move. I'm my mother's house when I was about 11 or 12, The computer desk was in the living room and on the opposite end was our TV and recliner and sofa. My brother was in front of the recliner playing GTA. I had just copied a paper of cheat codes from whatever site and bolted towards the TV to help lil bro. On the computer desk was various things. A plant, a single 1 foot x 1 foot speaker, the computer, Mac Mini, and monitor, picture in a frame and some papers. Now, I was the most avid computer user in the house, so I liked to play music on that sweet speaker nonstop. At the time, I listened to Disturbed, ETF, and other screamo type shit. I blasted the music usually. Right before darting to my brother with cheat codes, I turned the music down a little, so he could hear me say the codes, and placed the picture and frame face down because I was afraid the vibrations of the speaker would knock it down, resulting in angry mom. So, I'm on the other side of the room, telling my brother cheat codes, back to the computer desk and facing the TV screen. All of a sudden I hear a crash. We turn around and I see the picture and frame glass all over the floor but like a meter away from where it should have hit the ground. I look at my bro like WTF? How did the picture get that far from falling? Then I realized, how did it fall after securing it face down? But the biggest catch? It was a painting/graphic of the devil in a dark casino-esque place playing cards with a fiddle by him. At the time mom liked these weird gothic style art pieces like sugar skulls and creepy artwork. It was very unusual.